Hello, people, and welcome to NEWSPASTY with me, your host, Charlie Vedmore. And what we doing today? Oh my God, we're looking at Sky News, and who is it? John Bolton. John Bolton's come out of the woodwork now, and he's one of the army of establishment lackeys who are there to tell you don't vote for Trump, so that you'll probably vote for Trump. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's how fifth generation warfare works. He'll give him a job too later on, just like he did the last time. Yes, John Bolton got a job under Trump. Oh, what a surprise. Let's see what these guys have to say. Look at this guy.
President Joe Biden described my next guest as a bull in a china shop for his muscular approach to foreign affairs. Former US Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, is a hawk on Iran, a strong supporter of Israel, and a highly influential voice in Republican circles. And these days, he's an outspoken critic of his old boss, Donald Trump. So, sticking with the theme of today's program, that it's a dangerous world, what can Western leaders do about it?
That makes
so they're going to go and ask John Bolton.
What can Western leaders do about it?
What can Western leaders do about it? Asks the black version of Penfold. Well, I tell you what Western leaders can do about it. Stop listening to John bloody Bolton. Who's listening to John Bolton? All of the problems of the past are men like John Bolton. Hawks. And look at them. What are they doing? What are they going to do? Oh, well, Trump's in. Panic. Who should we get in? John Bolton. Quick, bring him in. He's one of the most obnoxious, horrible people around. And it's their first go-to. This is like start of the year. Trump, he's coming. John Bolton, bring him in. You'll get a job eventually. I swear to God, you'll get a job. Let's hear what they got to say.
John Bolton, what are the chances of a second Trump White House, and what would that mean for global security? Ambassador Bolton, we're heading for the next stage of the Republican primaries, the vote in New Hampshire this week.
Where's the ambassador?
It looks as though Mr. Trump will be the Republican nominee. Can he beat Joe Biden?
Well, he can, and it looks like Biden will be the Democratic nominee, and he can beat Trump. I think this election will be much like 2020 and 2016 in that there.
Slowly, he's going up in his voice pattern. As he starts to get older, he starts to get more wincy and whiny. He used to be a little bit more deep-spoken, but now he's more whiny. And he sounds like, well, he's got that New York tone.
There will be a large group of voters, and in this year,
he's been on the East Coast for a long time.
A large group of voters who don't like either candidate. And in the end, the winner will be the candidate who is less disliked by this large group of voters, not an.
There you go. Now listen to what I said. Listen to what I said. They're bringing John Bolton on to dissuade you from Trump, it seems. Yeah, that's what you think you're doing. But in actual fact, you hate John Bolton so much that he will have a mixed effect. Some people will go, oh my God, I hate John Bolton so much. He's the worst thing that you could possibly bring. That just makes me want to vote Trump. And a load of other people will say, oh, well, John Bolton, he knows everything. I must hate Trump. And so he'll just switch, keep everybody in a mode where they don't really know what's going on. It makes you want to do the opposite of the person on stage is saying. And they know that. They already know that all of you are turned off. So just messing around now. That's all they got to do. As long as they keep you voting, you keep applying this system and keeping this system in place. You keep this system in place. As long as you keep voting. That's all they want. They don't care. John Bolton doesn't care if you vote left or right. He'll get a job either way. God, this place.
An ideal way to pick a president, but I think people are very unhappy. We're headed toward a rematch of 2020, notwithstanding all that dissatisfaction. It looks like what will happen, and right now that makes November impossible to predict.
He says it makes October impossible to predict. And the October, I mean, there can always be an October surprise, can't there? But I think that they say he's trying to say there'd be a rematch. Ooh, it'll be a rematch of 2020. Well, we know the result of 2020. We know it was hotly contested, and we know that there'll be a result. The same thing will happen. The same thing will happen. Expect the same thing to happen.
Okay, but if you were a betting man, are we likely to see another Trump presidency?
If you were a betting man.
Well, I think it's entirely possible. I mean, I don't mean to sound
John
pessimistic,
Bolton
but Biden is deeply unpopular. Now, he's had some good economic news in the past few days. Consumer confidence is up in the past 2 months by record amounts. But
because it was so low, consumer confidence is up by record amounts because it hit so low. That's what Biden does. He goes, look, it's going up. Yeah, after it just hit rock bottom, it's getting along the bottom. It can't go anywhere but up.
People honestly don't think he's got the competence to make it through another 4-year term, and I think that situation, sadly for Joe Biden,
it's not the confidence. He knows for sure. People don't think he has the mental ability, the physical health to last 1-2 years. They're propping him up as he is. He can't answer questions. It's bloopers galore. If anything big happens, he'll be stood down, and the next person will go into power. And at this stage, it's Kamala Harris. You people are over the top if you think that's going to do any good for the world. Just means the neo-hawks are definitely fully in control, and it means that other countries can test America for what it really is. And really, it starts to pull the mask away, doesn't it? Because you start to realize America will act the same because of the institutional corruption. America will act the same, whoever's in charge. And once you realize that, you realize the people who are supposedly in charge aren't in charge, are they? They're just puppets.
Reality is not going to get any better as days go by.
I'm going to come back to this because you're,
along with his mental
I
capacity.
think it's still a member of the Republican Party, and it's quite interesting to hear you say that it's a pessimistic outlook that Biden can't win. But let me just come on to your particular area of interest.
Wait a minute. A pessimistic outlook that Biden, the Democrat, can't win. So he's Republican looking for a Democrat. What are you trying to say there? It's not clear what they were trying to say.
Expertise. Foreign affairs looks set to play a bigger role
Foreign
in
affairs,
this
what,
year's
the
elections
Council on
than it
Foreign
might
Relations
normally
magazine.
do, particularly the conflict in the Middle East. This weekend, the Israeli Prime Minister said that, in effect, Israel would never accept a Palestinian state on its borders. On the other hand, Mr. Biden says that the solution must guarantee a Palestinian state.
But that's a fake line. We all know it's a fake line. We all know the Americans who say there must be a Palestinian state are saying it to appease so they look like they can still be the champions of a Palestinian state even afterwards. And then the record books will show, the history books will show, Biden wanted a two-state solution the whole time, you know, and it didn't end up like that, but that's what they wanted. That's the reason why they use that rhetoric. The actual actions say something else. And who are you asking for advice? The guy who's destabilized the Middle East possibly the most of any of these outside figures from who are brought in for these events. John Bolton. I mean, insane. Ask him how we could find peace.
What do you think a Trump administration would do?
I think it would be chaotic and unpredictable. I do think it's important that national security play a larger role in this election. It's been a mistake since the collapse of the Soviet Union.
John Bolton. I mean, come on. John Bolton thinks that national security should take a larger place in this stage, like this election. Of course, John Bolton, all he is just constantly national security, national security, national security. His national security is making other nations insecure. That's his national security. He thinks there should be more of that, of course.
In America, that we haven't debated enough what's happening, and I think we're beginning to see the consequences of that increase. I think a lot of Americans would support Netanyahu's position on the two-state solution, but regardless of how popular it is,
a lot of Americans would support Netanyahu's version of a two-state solution. Lovely. What, the one where there's no two states? So I don't think just because their actions show something different. We know there's lies galore here. Come on. We know.
The reality on the ground is the two-state solution is dead. Something has to be done for the Palestinians. They've been abused. They've made into a weapon against Israel for 75 years now. That hasn't gotten anywhere. But the idea that you're going to reconstruct Gaza and build a state on that, I think defies reality. The Palestinians.
Wow. I don't even know what he's trying to say. It sounds like a middle-of-the-road flip-flop all over the place. The Palestinian people have been used. They've been used as a missile against the Israeli people, meaning that, he's going with a line, Hamas is in all the buildings and tunnels underneath, so you could destroy them all. Hamas is this entity that's shadowy, that's everywhere all the time, and everybody is Hamas, but nobody is Hamas. He wants to have his feet in both of the camps so he can claim that he's in both the camps, but it's just not so, is it?
Palestinians were weaponized by radical Arab leaders back in the 50s and 60s because they were still trying to drive Israel into...
Wait. Hamas were radicalized by one guy in particular who was created and funded by Israel. And they admit it. Israelis admit this themselves. So, I mean, if we want to go down that route, we got to get the history right. Hope he does.
The sea. That is not going to happen. They are not going to return to their quote-unquote country of origin, Israel, especially after October the 7th. So for the good of the Palestinian people, whether they're in Gaza, the West Bank, or wherever they may be, for their own good, for the good of their children, they need to be resettled into viable economies.
Whoa! John Bolton just saying get rid of Gaza. That allows pretext every time. They bring down the wall. The subjugated people rebel. They then take away more people and send them to viable nation-state economies. Viable, like what? Rwanda, are we going to do that with the Palestinian people? Rwanda 2.0. Oh, let's just send everybody to Rwanda, shall we? I tell you what, how about Israeli take all of Palestine, yeah, and then and Gaza, we just send all of them to different equitable states with a little bit of money, just one or two, just mainly European states, probably, rather than America. Hey, yeah. Probably keep those Palestinians away from America, unless we want to increase the amount of people who hate us who live in the country because we've done terrible things to them.
Well, in that situation, and you've talked about this in the past, there is, of course, one big actor that might stand in the way of any of that, and that is Iran. Is the United States making a mistake, do you think, that in attacking the proxies for Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, even Hamas in some ways, or should it strike directly at Tehran?
Well,
oh my God, they just can't stop themselves. Can't you just say? So, how do we ask this question to John Bolton? We know he's going to say that we should attack Iran directly, and that we should get rid of Iran and we should tackle Iran. He knows this. We know this because we said at the beginning he's a hawk on Iran. So how do we ask the question so we get the exact answer we're expecting? Not new answers, not question him on something, not try and find falsehoods in his answers, or try and find the points where his argument is weakest. Let's help to just hand him the argument on a plate. What does that plate sound like? John, would you like to continue?
I think we're seeing right now, with respect to the Houthis, for example, 5 or perhaps it's now 6 American strikes. They're still firing missiles and drones at ships in the Red Sea. Iran is not feeling any pain for what's happening here. And what is happening is not a series of discrete, isolated clashes. This is the implementation of what the Iranian leadership calls the Ring of Fire strategy against Israel, developed by the late unlamented Qasem Soleimani of the Quds Force. Hamas didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, why don't we attack Israel? This was...
Whoa. No. Hamas got the actual ideological leader got trained up by Israel. They had to go through a whole process. To get to this point. And then you had to have all of the Israelis doing terrible things to the Palestinian people for years and years and years and years. You have to have context. It wasn't just October the 7th. Amazing, though.
Coordinated. This is part of an Iranian plan. We can't discern the full
so it's part
picture
of
what the Iranians have in mind, and they might not be very happy the way it's playing out. But Iran didn't arm and equip and train and finance the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, Shia militia groups in Iraq to use these resources for their own benefit at their own discretion. Iran did all that so it would have a capability through its proxies to act as it's acting now.
So would you...
Notwithstanding strikes against these proxies, Iran is still at it.
So would you...
Well, in that case, then, America hasn't done all of the things America's doing for no reason, hasn't funded all of the different groups for no reason, all of the governments for no reason. It's doing it so it can act as proxy, as power in the region. What he's just saying can be reversed exactly to America, too. Think about that.
You still stand by what you've said at times in the past, that actually the United States should simply just take action against Iran?
Absolutely, and I think we could do it. I think we could send several Iranian ships that are in the Red.
Iran hasn't been at war with anybody like one-on-one for something like 400, 500 years or something. I mean, it was the West desperate, axis of evil stuff. There was even George W. Bush who was desperate to get in there, wasn't they? They were all into it. Iran, 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 if we can get Iran. Do not think you can even occupy Iran, that you can defeat Iran, that you're even close to that. Iran isn't Iraq. Iran isn't Afghanistan. Iran will destroy the enemies. Iran will do so much more than any of those other ones before. And we went into those and said, oh, we should never have gone into them over and over again. So what do you think Iran will be? It's 20 times worse than it. I can tell you it's 20 times worse, at least 20 times worse. You want worse than Iraq and Afghanistan. You want to throw Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, North Korea, for both Iraqs, Kosovo, all of those into one thing, and it still isn't close to what attacking Iran would be like. What John Bolton says here is world war stuff. Because if you attack Iran, you're strategically placing yourself to attack Turkey. And Turkey knows this. Whether or not you're going to ever say that until the time comes, if you want to eventually take on Russia, Turkey has to be on your side or has to be controlled by you. That's a fact. And that's where we're going. So on the one side, on the front where you come up to the east, you get hit into Ukraine, and that's the end of the road. Belarus, Georgia, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all of those around there. Those are the areas that lead you into certain parts of Russia, but where Russia will be defended the best and where you wouldn't want to be put in. The real key is down there, having that control, because if you can't control Turkey, if you go into Russia and Turkey are against you, sways the whole war, and you could lose everything. Europe, American domination, everything goes. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at the long game, the long war. This isn't about Iran. This is about Turkey and then Russia. You think it's about Iran. It was about Iraq before. You think it's about Iraq and Afghanistan. No, it's about Russia. And it's about Turkey. It's about surrounding these countries over and over again, getting a foothold within China for the war that they've predicted over and over again will come. John Bolton and others. This is the hawk of the hawks standing there saying the most hawkish thing, and what he's saying isn't. It's always, oh, we need to do this to sort out the problem, but that means another 10 things afterwards. It's crazy.
Red Sea, aiding the Houthis. We could send them to the bottom of the Red Sea. We could attack air defense sites inside Iran. We could go after military headquarters of the Quds Force. We could go after camp.
We could escalate into a war, which we cannot even imagine is so much more. What he's tricking you, yeah? We could do all of these things. Okay, and then that's it then, I suppose. Then we don't have to do anything. Problem solved. We could do all of those things. It's not like suddenly the Iranian infrastructure will go into place that will cause trouble in every single country that supports those policies. It's not that it will cause instability in other countries in the region, and there will be a knock-on effect that will mean that will give the gift of access to a region there to America that they've got this more than what they got now, because they're already based in Syria, Iraq, and all these other countries. They've slowly got into these countries, haven't they? Why have they got into these countries? Because they're positioning themselves. What are they positioning themselves for? Iran. And why are they positioning themselves for Iran? Because if you manage to take Iran, you manage to take Turkey, maybe. But it's all just like, it's all pipe dreams. They're desperate, but all pipe dreams.
Where weapons and training have been transferred to various militia groups. Our attacks wouldn't necessarily threaten the mullahs in Tehran, but as long as they are engaged in all this activity in the region, cost-free to them, they will continue to do it.
What they're gonna okay, John Bolton saying we could do all of these things. Okay, but and we won't hit the mullah. We won't be able to hit the mullahs in Tehran. We won't affect them at all. No, not even at all. Not even a jot. But if we don't do them, they'll continue to do this stuff. So what, you're saying they're not going to do this stuff if you do take these actions? Because that's a lie. They'll do more. Iran will do more in the region and elsewhere because they will be threatened and they have to go into a war stance. They will do more, not less, more. So what is this? And the people will be behind them as well. And there's cells galore all around the place for Iranian. You want to go into a fight against the Persian people? You crazy.
We have no deterrence now in the region, not even, for goodness sakes, against the Houthis.
Let's talk about the relationship between the UK and the United States. When you were National Security Advisor back in 2019, you said that you welcomed Brexit and the United States would quickly negotiate a series of trade deals with the UK to make Brexit work. When Mr. Trump left office 18 months later, those talks hadn't even begun. Well, what actually happened?
Well, I would put the blame, unfortunately, on the government and the political parties in Great Britain. The Remainers lost the vote, and they simply didn't accept it, and they fought for.
Oh, so he's saying that the Brexit betrayal. He's claiming Brexit betrayal, which most of us would claim Brexit betrayal. I was officially I voted Remain, but I didn't really care. Nothing really mattered anymore. It was like the last time that I was really getting involved in any type of election like that. I wasn't planning, and I haven't got involved in anything since. I don't think so. No. Crazy though.
Years, making it almost impossible for successive governments to deal effectively in the trade area with the United States and others. You know, if you ask for a vote and you lose and you don't like it and you try and subvert it, sounds a little Trumpian to me.
Well, the reason I'm asking you is that I'm wondering how you're assessing the relationship between the UK.
He tries to. There you go. He slanted it to be a slight against Trump. But what he just described was like, oh, it sounds like the opposite party are doing a bit of Trump. It's just the establishment, just political establishment. They do something, they give us a vote, and if we vote no, they're going to do it anyway. What you're talking about is either side. You know it as well, Bolton, but you use it as a tool just in this point because this helps you battle against Trump a little bit for your mates.
In the United States. Pentagon sources last week criticised our Defence Secretary for an interview he did here, actually on Sky News, in which they say that Mr. Shapps let slip that there would be an attack on the Houthis. In Washington, certain in the Ambassador Bolton mind, can the UK be trusted as an ally?
In the Ambassador Bolton mind, what does that mean? In the Ambassador in Washington, in the Ambassador Bolton mind, he's like there's minds in a jar somewhere and works separately from him.
Yeah, look, you'd have to be really living on a different planet not to see that pressure was growing to strike the Houthis. And the circumstances, I think, were increasingly clear. The problem with both governments is we didn't strike the Houthis earlier.
He's going to say that about every time.
The position of successive British governments in providing aid to Ukraine, far more vigorous in advocating and proportionally supplying aid to Ukraine than the Biden administration has been.
So there you go. He's like, oh, I champion support to this part of the war front that I'm creating, and I want to create a new front by here and put. Which way are they going? Which way are they going? Which way is that the Ambassador Bolton heading you? Which way?
Quickly, the issue, I guess, is whether in Washington we are thought not just willing but capable. One of our former military leaders, Lord Donat, has been saying this weekend that we're running down, particularly the British Army. Do Americans think that we are not just a willing but a capable ally?
Yeah, look, I think both the United States and the United...
What is this report? What is this presenter doing? Are we trustworthy? Are we capable? Are we reliable? Are we? Is he saying this to British people to make them go, "Oh yes, we need to be more capable and more of an ally, don't we? Yes, we need to support the Americans, whatever they do. What do they want to do? Iran? Yes, let's do it. Oh, wait a minute, we're in a war that'll drag on for 15, 20 years and will lead to terrorist attacks all over Europe, and we don't even want. Why did we want this? Why did we? What do you mean Bolton put it in us and wouldn't take it out again? My
Kingdom
God.
are going to have to spend substantially more on defense. Right now, U.S. levels about 3% of GDP. U.K. is a little bit over.
Got to spend more money on the missiles.
I think the U.S. needs to go back to Ronald Reagan era levels, given the threats we see around the world. That's 5 to 6% of GDP.
Ronald Reagan era. We need a whole Star Wars program. We need to get the head of the CIA in as vice president. Like that won't end in him getting president.
Honestly, you should do the same. God knows our friends in Europe have to go from their relatively low levels, almost all of them, to much higher levels. We all made a mistake when the Cold War ended. People said history had ended too, and that it's the economy, stupid, and nothing else matters. Look at the invasion of Ukraine. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. Look at the Chinese threat to the South China.
All of this is American made. all of what he's saying is American made before, when it was the economy.
The sea into Taiwan. History didn't end. Threats exist.
No.
Global politics is still dangerous, and if we're not prepared for it, we will find ourselves in a disadvantageous position. A strong welfare state, a strong national health system will not defend you against your adversaries.
Very quick last question.
Wow, a strong. So looking after your people and having a national health service won't help you against your enemies. What you got? What can we, as an American, what can we do? Make you fight in a war that will lead to a load of you dying and a load of terrorist attacks and loads of instability in the world, global markets, as well as regionally and at home and everywhere else, will be 10 times worse than you can ever imagine the wars that have been since World War II, and may actually be the start of World War III. Well, not only that, but you can't have any sort of benefits for being a citizen of the country, and you can't have free health service. No, that's not going to protect. We want to take all of that away from you. That's Bolton. That's what he wants. Open your eyes to what aligning with America is. It's taking away everything you've got, because that's what they do to their own citizens. Their own citizens are going, I got nothing. I got nothing. If they dared to dream of a health system that would be free at the point of use, everybody would scream communist, wouldn't they? And it would go into red fright.
Probably you only need one word for this. If there is a Trump administration, if asked, will you return to serve at the White House?
I will not be asked, and I will not serve.
He's too old. He won't be asked.
We'll see. Ambassador Bolton, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, they're laughing because it doesn't really matter. You could quite easily
Well, with me now
do that.
and listening to that interview is Yalda Hakim, presenter of our new global affairs program, The World, launching on Sky tomorrow.
Wow, I bet
First,
you that's going
Yalda,
to go
many
down like a
congratulations
sack
on
of
the new
poo.
show.
Congratulations
John
on
Bolton,
your new show.
What's your reaction to what he had to say, particularly on Iran?
Well, first of all, just in response to his last answer there.
Wait a minute, he led him. He gave him, so they already know what he was going to say because they led him down that road, didn't they? They led him down that road. That's what they do. They lead them down the road. And then they've already planned out what the response is going to be and they're laughing. Amazing. We knew what he was going to say. Oh, so funny.
About whether he'd serve again if there was a Trump 2.0. It didn't end well, so I can't imagine that he would serve again. But look, you know, I think what we're going to see over the next year, and certainly something that we're going to address on my show, there is going to be a lot of catastrophizing of the world. The end of democracy, the end of the world order as we know it,
This is
the
what
end
the
of
media
American
are
leadership.
doing.
And I think what I hope to do on the program is to help our audiences understand that we live in an incredibly polarized world where there is a lot of distrust.
This is what they do on every program in the media.
Conversation and you know, discuss the idea that there are different views and it's okay to disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh my God! From the media that censored everybody but the voices that they allowed, so you wouldn't let you disagree. You know, we could disagree without being disagreeable. What, you literally banned people from being able to speak, from having a voice. That's the most disagreeable thing you can do. Now you're like, oh, but we would do that. We're the opposite because we're the mainstream. You know, because Sky. Because I've got a new show, and new means we can do whatever we like, rewrite history.
So you know, in terms of what's going on in Iran, I mean, we can see the Middle East embroiled in this escalating conflict. And, you know, I guess I always sort of say what happens in the Middle East doesn't necessarily stay in the Middle East. The United States has often said, look.
She always says, she always walks around, she has these sentences, she quotes her husband's like, hey, are you going to pick the baby up tonight, or am I going to pick the baby up? And she turns around and says, what happens in the Middle East doesn't necessarily stay in the Middle East. Or maybe she gets a phone call and it's about being blackmailed for sex compromise operations she's run in the Middle East. And she says, what happens in the Middle East doesn't stay in the Middle East. I go in silly. Yeah, but you can see she's an icon. She's sorry, I should say it like this. She reminds me, she speaks like the upper class of Britain. She speaks like when I used to work in a record store. I used to work in a Virgin Megastores, and it went into administration. And the administrators come in, and they were from Ernst & Young, and they were like, oh, Zavio. Are we going to take over? Oh, yes, we got... she sounds like they've given a show to someone who has enough rings on her finger. For sure. Amazing.
We've moved on from the Middle East. We've moved on from the war on terror. And now our focus is great power competition.
We haven't moved on.
Our focus is China. Our focus is dealing with the problem that is Russia. But somehow they always get dragged back into...
Clearly, we're still in the Middle East and we've never left the Middle East, and it's been going on. How many Middle Eastern crises have come before? Loads. We've been in the Middle East. Fucking Americans and British supplying weapons to the Saudis to bomb Yemen for years beforehand. We've been to the Middle East. Oh, we left the Middle East, and now look, we're being dragged back to the Middle East. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Honestly, this is
to the Middle East. So I imagine we're going to, on the show, try and make sense of that.
Well, I'll certainly be watching. Do you think that
eat caviar and drink tea with our little fingers out?
We inject a little bit of nuance, and as you say, the catastrophizing that goes on, I think, slightly ill-serves audiences in many ways.
They love saying the word catastrophizing. Oh, Are you catastrophizing? Yes, are you catastrophizing? No, I'm making up quotes. Whatever happens in the Middle East. Oh, shut up, would you, woman? Sorry, husbands become disagreeable in my mind. You don't have to be disagreeable. We can disagree and then shut up, woman. Stop. You're a catastrophizer. This is a bunch of guys, I tell you. I love them.
In a sense, do you think that this is a real big moment for foreign affairs, isn't it, and journalism? We normally think foreign affairs, oh, well, nobody's that bothered. But I think it's having a big impact
foreign
on the
affairs in the world. We think normally, we think foreign affairs in the world and no one really cares. You remember when Vietnam was happening, no one really cared. It wasn't like there was protests or anything. When Iraq was happening, it was like no one really cared. Well, wait a minute. Is it that you just don't show it? What's happening with a massive thing? Well, there's people walking in the street. Is there? Oh, well, they're not going to show it on TV, so no one really cares, because people only care about what we care about, what we show them. I
mean, for me, foreign affairs has always been my bread and butter and my true love. And so I guess I've always had my eye on.
I get a feeling that she's from a very posh family whose parents were involved somehow in foreign affairs too. I sense a little bit of a whiff of intelligence is not the type of intelligence you like.
On what's going on globally. But you're right. No longer are people, certainly in this country, feeling like something is going on over there and it doesn't impact me over here. No. I often say, people may not quite know.
Here you go. She's doing it again. I often say people may not know.
Pronounce Prigozhin or exactly what was going on in Russia or Ukraine. But actually, they know what happens over there impacts them here, and they need to know. And so that's what I'm hoping that I'll be able to give through the show to our audience.
Does she always say that? Is that what I always say? What's the point of watching the show? You know what she always says. Oh, that was beautiful. I loved it. Right, okay, well, that was NEWSPASTY. Like, share, subscribe, support me if you can. Oh my God, these people are just insane. I love it. What can I say? These people, they're just extraordinary.